be respectful of everybody's time. We'll get started, and folks can kind of filter in as we go. So I'll just start off with some committee housekeeping, and then we'll do introductions and kind of get into the agenda. So if there's many of you probably see closed captioning on the bottom of your screen. You can turn that off by clicking the CC button. It minimizes that. So if you like it, awesome. If it bothers you, then just click it away. Jason, you'll see the name Jason. He is our IT guy. This meeting is streamed. It is a public meeting, so anybody can basically listen in on what we have to say. So it's a stream from our council website, and we're hoping to have a ton of discussion. So at any point, feel free to think. And Kenya thinks, or Felicia, thank you for letting us know that they'll be joining us. Hopefully they can, if they're having too many difficulties, just let me know and I'll try to help as well. We'll start by some introductions. We have a lot to cover today, and we're super excited to have all of you. It's a big work to do this year, and we need all of you to help us through it. So we'll start off with some introductions. I'll kind of introduce some of the staff for just ease. Introductions tend to get kind of long. So I'll just kind of do that. And then we'll do some committee housekeeping. We have to adopt our charter, elect our committee co-chairs. We'll get into all of that. Dan and I will provide a little bit of a project update just to kind of ground everybody in where we are. We'll talk a little bit about what we've heard and just and whatnot. Dan, any words of welcome for our group this morning?
Well, I guess I'd just like to welcome back some of you, and welcome for the first time many of you on this exciting project of the Blue Line Extension. We're excited to get our community and business advisory committees back up and running. For those of you that I haven't met, my name's Dan Solar. I work with Hennepin County Public Works as the lead on LRT projects, including this Blue Line Extension project. And previous to that, I spent a number of years at Met Council working on both the Central Quarter Line and the project director on Blue Line project. So some of our team have a great number of years of experience working on this, and we're excited to get this going again. We're disappointed in the fact that we were unable to advance the project with Burlington Northern Railroad after many years, but we're excited to re-pivot the project and make it hopefully even better than it had been before, and to really try to take this opportunity to serve the needs of the communities in the northwest part of Hennepin County and provide this significant transit investment. So that's we're happy to have you here, and I'm going to be here for some of the meeting today to talk about some things, and we're excited to get this started.
Thanks, Dan. And I keep failing to introduce myself. I'm Sophia Ginis. I'm the Manager of Public Involvement for Transit System Development at Metro Transit. I focus on our light rails, and I am your contact for everything committees or project in general. So that's a little bit. And so as we get into introductions, if you want to say either your business or who you represent, what city you're in, and kind of what brought you to want to be part of this committee today. I have been a resident of many of our cities along this alignment during project development, from Brooklyn Park to Northeast Minneapolis to now in Golden Valley. So I know many of you are both residents and as well as business representatives. So I'll start by kind of naming names, and for some of our staff, for our staff representatives, I'll just kind of let folks know who's on the call so we can focus on the committee this morning. So you might see Jason as our IT guy. He makes sure everything's working on our technical end. And then on the committee, we have Alex and then Candace. And you'll need to unmute.
Okay, so I go, Sophia.
Yes, please introduce yourself.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name's Alex Burns. I work at Move Minneapolis and am representing the Minneapolis Regional Chamber here this morning. I live in Minneapolis, and I think this project is really critical for the future of our transit system. And so I'm excited to see it rebooted and glad to be part of the discussion.
Thanks, Alex. Candace.
Good morning, I'm Candace Otheld. I'm representing the city of Crystal, and I run a nonprofit called Care USA. It's nonprofit, not by design, but by reality, but we have a lot of fun with it. We dabble in a lot of different areas, from trails and recreational issues to transit, which is something I'm very, very familiar with. Having lived in Japan for a number of years, that was our mode of transportation to get around. So I'm very interested in the topic and looking forward to continuing here.
We have Andrew Gillette, who's from Hennepin County. He's in our Community Works program, so feel free to turn your camera and wave hello. Otherwise, I think CW is probably Chris up next. And then I'm not sure, that Kevin might be, no, Kevin is E2. I'm not sure who DRC is.
Hello, everybody. This is Chris Webley. I am the founder and CEO at New Rules. We're a Northside-based real estate development company. I am a Northsider as well as a resident. Happy to be a part of this project of a long-time divested community, and to have this type of transit coming through the North Side. Happy to be a part of it, and hopes that it can help benefit the residents and businesses who are there.
And DRC host is John Hacker from Design Ready Controls.
Oh, that's right, John. You mentioned that before. Thank you. I'll remember next time.
Representing Brooklyn Park. We've been in Brooklyn Park since 2015, and the light rail coming was a big reason we chose here. So hopefully we can help get this across the finish line at some point in the future, and excited to be part of it once again now that we're rolling again.
And then we have Kevin and then Felicia.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Kevin Croston. I'm the CEO of North Memorial Health. We're based in Robbinsdale. You see our ambulances, they serve the northern part of the Twin Cities, and you've seen Maple Grove Hospital and the North Memorial Robbinsdale campus. So happy to be here.
Felicia.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Felicia Perry. I am the Executive Director of the West Broadway Business and Area Coalition. So I'm representing Minneapolis, specifically the West Broadway corridor. I'm also a longtime Northside resident and homeowner just 2 blocks off of the corridor. So my interest in what happens to transportation in the community is real. I have people in my family, my household, who utilize public transportation, as well as being a Black person. I'm really hoping that I can find space in here to find ways to reduce the type of trauma that transportation development usually causes neighborhoods like mine.
Next up, I'm not sure the first name. It looks like Hewer or Hugh. You'll need to unmute. Might be staff. We can always come back. And after that, we have Ian and then Jackson. Ian, if you want to introduce yourself. And you'll need to unmute. For folks, the unmute button is both kind of on the top of your screen, or you can press your space bar, or *6 is also a keyboard command that helps unmute. For those that are on the phone, unmuting can sometimes, WebEx can be a little bit challenging in that front. Okay, we can try to come back to Ian Jackson. And you'll need to unmute. Try to. There you go.
My name is Jackson George. I am the Executive Director of the Liberian Business Association. We are heavily based in the Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center area. I am a resident of Brooklyn Park and I have a business, Strategy Africa, incorporated in Brooklyn Park.
Thank you, Jackson. And Ian just sent me a message that he's on the phone. He's also one of our representatives from the Minneapolis area. Next we have Jennifer and then Jesse.
Good morning, I'm Jennifer Cutter. I am a realtor with Edina Realty, and my husband also has a business, home inspection business out of Golden Valley. So we're here representing Golden Valley. We've been longtime residents here, but between our personal interest in mass transit and then obviously our professional interest, I'm honored to be on this committee so that we can hopefully find the best way to serve our communities collectively and collaboratively to get mass transit and get transportation and infrastructure in our cities that will help all and serve all. So thank you.
And Jesse is one of our staff members from Brooklyn Park. I don't know if he wants to say hello.
Yeah, I'm just Jesse Struve. I'm the city engineer for Brooklyn Park. So been part of this process the first time in the last 5 years or so, 6 years.
And we have City of Minneapolis staff, Jim Vole.
Hello, I'm Jim Vole. I work for the City of Minneapolis in the Community Planning and Economic Development Department, and I'm one of the city staff team that's working on the Blue Line extension.
We have Jimmy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jimmy Lloyd. I am Senior Director of Community Development for Justice Built Communities, a recently created CDC by Pillsbury United. We have interest over in Minneapolis with our North Market and other operational things that I will be working on as well. Happy to be here. Great to see everybody this morning.
Welcome. We have a staff member next, Joan Vanhala. She's with Hennepin County. I'll let her introduce herself. She's one of our presenters today.
Hi all, I'm Joan Vanhala, engagement specialist at Hennepin County and part of the partnership with Metro Transit on engagement. And I'll be talking to you later about what I've been up to.
And then I believe we have Kenya McKnight next. And you might have hopefully you can unmute.
Thank you for that assistance, Sophia. Kenya McKnight, President and CEO of the Black Women's Wealth Alliance. And I guess I've worked on the Blue Line, formerly Botno, since 2009 in different ways as a resident of North Minneapolis. And now I represent as a business leader, serving historical Black women statewide around economic, business, and cultural wealth building. So I am here today to also find out how to increase economic development opportunities or how to leverage the Blue Line as a core economic development tool for places like North Minneapolis and for cultural communities throughout the Blue Line area.
Welcome, Kenya. We're glad to have your continued participation. We have a couple staff members next, and I will introduce them real quick, and feel free to wave hello. We have Christy Staley, who is one of our lead technical folks on the project, helping with our engineering. We have Kyle Minanuli with Hennepin County, and he is one of our communication gurus. Need to say things well. He has all the tricks up his sleeve. We have Liz Maurice, who's with our consultant team. She is the note taker for this meeting. So she does a meeting summary And next meeting we'll review what she writes, and we can change things as needed. So Liz, we throw a million things at, and she does awesomely. So that's Liz. Next we have Matthew, and then Mike.
Sophia, I'm guessing me. So,
yes.
Good morning, everyone. Matt Kenning. I'm the site head for Takeda for our facility here in Brooklyn Park. We're located right at 169 and 610, and right off of Broadway, which I understand some of the latest plans that I've seen, the line is running immediately adjacent to our campus here. So that's certainly some of the interest is just the impacts to us here at this campus. But I think even more importantly, this line helps open up and provide more access to talent around the Twin Cities. So I think it's a great thing for us. And so, happy to be here and look forward to learning more about what's going on and how I can help.
Thanks, Mike. Or Matt. Next up, Mike.
Hello, my name is Mike Steinhauser, born and raised Northwest Quadrant, representing the businesses of Robbinsdale. I also have businesses in New Hope. I'm hopeful that the conclusion of this will help raise awareness and public development all along the corridor. So I'm excited to get started and excited to get moving so we can make some changes in all the communities.
Awesome. Welcome, Mike. I'll introduce a couple staff. So we have Nick Landwehr. He's with our Metro Transit and helps direct our design and engineering for the project. He's been with us for quite some time, so probably a familiar face to all of you, or many of you. Then we have Trevor Roy. He also works on our communication team. And then on the committee next, we have Ryan.
Hello, my name's Ryan Bourne. I have a office furniture store and own an office building on West Broadway in Brooklyn Park here. Also a resident of Golden Valley, so I've got kind of dual interest, but I see a lot of people up here on West Broadway struggling with transportation, having to walk across lawns and parking lots to get to buses, and obviously some more infrastructure is needed up here, and it looks like West Broadway seems to be a pretty good avenue, maybe coupled with 81, depending on if any of the Burlington Northern things get resolved.
Welcome, Ryan. I'll introduce Sam O'Connell. She is with probably driving right now. She is the Metro Transit lead for the project along with Dan. And last on our list is Timothy Baylor.
Good morning, everyone. This morning I'm here in the official capacity representing the Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce. I own business in Robbinsdale and in Minneapolis, so I travel the Broadway corridor several times a day. I'm a longtime Minneapolis resident. I happen to be on the board of trustees of North Memorial Hospital, a local real estate developer in Minneapolis as well. This alignment coming through North Minneapolis and the western suburb is critical, and it's very important, and I want to be a part of the appropriate solution to make sure this alignment serves all of the people equitably. Thank you.
Welcome. And a couple of names popped around as we were introducing, so I'll pause just for a second for anybody that I missed.
I'm here now if you want to say
Go
quick
ahead,
hello.
Ian. Go ahead, Ian.
Ian Alexander. I'm an attorney in North and Minneapolis. I also, like Tim, I dabble in real estate development, although Tim's more of a serious real estate developer. And I also am working on a few transit-related pre-development projects in North as well.
Well, welcome everybody. This is a really dynamic group, and we want to please say thank you for your efforts to help us with our work this year. So we will dive into the charter and some housekeeping for the committee, and then get to the project update. in presenter mode, I can't fully see the chat. So if I'm just talking and somebody has a question, feel free to jump in and alert me to that. And, we feel free to ask questions as well throughout. And we really hope that this is a discussion and not just a presentation, even though we have a lot of information to get through this morning. So everybody in their committee packet should have received the committee charter overall, so you can kind of follow along in a handout. I have it in slides just so we can kind of walk through it in chunks a little bit. The first part is that really this is the business advisory committee is part of our decision-making process that helps advise the corridor management committee, which is their body of policymakers. And you all are appointed to serve through the duration of this project phase. So by the end of this year, we hope to have a community-supported alignment that works for all the municipalities and areas involved. And so if that takes a little bit less, that takes a little bit longer, that this group would be together for that. And then at that point, we would decide if we need to seek reappointments or just kind of continue in our work, depending on the needs of the community. So we kind of have our purpose, and the first bullet is kind of a wonky way of saying that basically part of our goal is that we have the same project, even though we're making changes. We still want this to be the blue line as designed. So to use a kind of a federal term, is we're mitigating the use of freight rail property. So our goal is to keep the project similar, but find solutions. We turn to all of you to help with our outreach to, specifically this group, to the business community and your colleagues, to help us find solutions and to identify improvements to maximize the positive benefits. We'll encounter issues. There's no doubt about it. So finding strategies and ideas to help deal with those issues as we move through the project. I introduced Andrew earlier. The Hennepin County Community Works, kind of their term Beyond the Rails, also comes and talks to this group about kind of the overall picture beyond just the light rail itself. And we turn to you to also help us disseminate information into the communities, into your organizations. So people can nod, shake heads, give thumbs up. Is there anything missing from the purpose that this group would particularly like to highlight to help us drive our work? Okay, I'm here. We're all good, is what I'm. And if folks have digest this and have some comments later, we can always adjust as well. Okay. So responsibilities a little bit. One of the things that people have talked about the most is having a group that can participate with us. So if there's any rules that the group wants in terms of, for example, if you miss a certain amount of meetings, then I reach out to you and check in to make sure you're still going to attend. And if not, we appoint new folks. So you can decide to strengthen that first one if you want. Obviously, we have an active group to participate, reporting back to your organizations. And then same thing with the maximizing the benefits and looking through issues. And of course, I know everybody, but listen and respect the viewpoints of others. There might be times where we're at loggerheads in terms of a specific thing, but we still want to function respectfully as a group. I'll ask the question again. Does it feel like we're missing anything? Does anything need to get strengthened with the charter? Good? Okay. So I didn't put the full membership chart or spreadsheet on the spreadsheet just because it gets a little wonky. But in your packet, you can see kind of the different entities that appoint to the BAC. Basically, we have representatives from each city along the line. Hennepin County and Met Council also appoint folks, and we have representatives from kind of our area chambers. So that's kind of what we're made up of. And I guess, does anything feel missing again?
Sophia, is there any need for an education representative from along the corridor?
Like specifically reaching out to, do you have an institution in mind, or?
I'm just thinking of Minneapolis School District or Golden Valley or Robbinsdale. Just curious if that's traditionally on a committee like this.
We have not in the past purposely reached out to, say, a school district staff member, but I think that's a good idea, and we could consider how we would do that. Is there any other thoughts from the committee on that front?
I personally like the spirit of that idea, and I can help identify. There's a school that's on the West Broadway corridor, and I can help connect there and possibly help identify somebody who can be a representative. I would personally advise against MPS themselves as as that district versus actual like students or faculty that like live, work, fellowship in that area. So that's what I'd offer.
Okay, so I'm hearing from the committee that we want to purposely seek out somebody that thinks of education, and we have some ideas. So I'll maybe follow up with that to kind of fill in that voice. Anything else? Okay. Now the next piece is, I think, the most important for how we talk about our group, and I'll kind of set the table here. We'll talk about the last thing, and then we'll let appoint our co-chairs. So to help this committee do our work, we usually seek co-chairs, and it could be a chair and a vice chair, or we often just do two co-chairs that kind of work collaboratively. The thing that is maybe a little bit different about taking on a co-chair role is a couple extra meeting needs. And one would be a meeting with me about once a month, a little bit before this meeting, to kind of go over the agenda and see if there's anything missing and help kind of set the table for the discussion that we need to have. And then the other would be to attend our corridor management committee. Our corridor management committee is made up of the elected officials along the line, and so a lot of our mayors and city councils from the 5 cities, our county commissioners, and our Met Council members, as well as like a few agency staff. So that committee meets on the second Thursday of the month from 1:30 to 3. So it's a daytime, kind of middle of the day commitment once a month. And the role in that committee would be both to report out on what we discussed here, as well as participate as an active member of that committee. And since your community advisory committee folks appointed their chairs first, we would really hope that some of the women on this committee would be interested in being some co-chairs, because we didn't have any women appointed last night, and they also appointed folks more towards the middle cities of our corridor. So folks from Minneapolis or Brooklyn Park, we don't have a representation yet in a co-chair. So as you're kind of all sorry, tripping over myself. So if you fill that gap, we'd hope you'd consider being a co-chair. I'll give everybody a minute to think about this as we go into the next item, and then we'll spend some time actually selecting our co-chairs. One of the kind of key things about how this committee has worked in the past, and I'll also offer, if you are interested, please put the note in chat, just like Alicia did. And we're awesome that, or it's awesome that I'm glad that you're interested. So one of the pieces of the committee is, we can, in terms of voting and whatnot, we've often deliberated on consensus, meaning that if we're not agreeing about an issue, we don't just kind of shut that opinion away. we try to bring it forward and work it through to find a solution. And so kind of what has worked with the chair before, or the co-chairs before, is that if we have multiple viewpoints on the committee, that's brought forth, and then the staff work to kind of through these things as we develop the project. Does that feel right for this group? Again, I'm seeing yes nods. Any other points about how we work together? Thumbs up, everybody's good? Okay. Okay, and then the last piece before we kind of select our co-chairs is that right now the meeting is scheduled for the 8 a.m. in the morning, and we want this group to continue to meet before the CMC, so that gives us a few days kind of before the Thursday. But we would like to offer, if morning, lunch hour, kind of, does this time and date feel right to folks, or would there be a desire to kind of shift it along the day?
This time seems to work best.
Okay. Do I have kind of thumbs up, head nods? Everybody want to keep the time as it is?
Yeah, 8 o'clock works. I had was it second Thursday you were saying?
Yeah, for the CMC.
Gotcha, okay.
And how it works sometimes with the calendar is sometimes this ends up being the same week. They fall in the same week, and some weeks they're a week apart. Okay, I think our business is more or less done, so let's elect our co-chair.
One quick question. Does it always have to be on a Tuesday? Or could it ever be on a Wednesday or a?
That it could be on a Wednesday, but you'd want it before the Thursday.
Okay.
Tuesday was kind of what it had historically worked best. It gives us a little bit of time to adjust if needed. Okay, I'm hearing overall maybe that we're fine with our date. I see in chat that both Felicia and Tim Baylor are interested in being our co-chairs. Did I miss anybody?
I think Mike Steinhauser is also interested.
Yeah, I'm also interested, Mike Steinhauser.
And Mike. Okay, so we have those three. So to kind of decide, it's really up to the committee to figure out who our representatives are. We often try to have both representation in terms of different areas, so we're not all coming from this same place. But would anybody on the committee like to put forth how we select our folks? We could vote, we can discuss, we could have folks say a couple words.
I like the fact that Tim represents both Minneapolis and the Robbinsdale area. I think that's beneficial for most of it.
To add to that discussion, I think the fact that Felicia represents Minneapolis, we don't have any women appointed yet. I think she should be the first to be appointed.
I wouldn't mind hearing from each candidate of why they want to be the host or the co-chair.
This is Tim Baylor. I try to balance my personal, professional, and civic responsibilities, and I certainly cover a range of interests and background, from being a previous planning commissioner to a current business owner and longtime resident in the city of Minneapolis. Minneapolis in this quarter is my life, and I think I have the background, the skills, the motivation to be a broad-based voice with experience and interest to promote what I think is parity and equitable decisions to make the best route for this blue line. And so that's my interest. And because I'm also representing the Robbinsdale Chamber, because I have businesses on both ends of the corridor, and because I also represent by way of the Board of Trustees, North Memorial Hospital, I think I'm well suited for the position.
I got the question in chat. Could we have tri-chairs? Could all three represent?
And Sophia, this is Dan. I think we could do that. I mean, generally we would look for one, we would split this up a little bit. So one of the chairs would be available to present the viewpoints at the corridor management committee. And as the three of you, Mike and Tim and Felicia, you could kind of split that up and kind of jointly and together lead this group, work with Sophia to kind of set the agenda and determine talking points for the meeting. I think some additional viewpoints would be fine, and it isn't that any particular chair has to do a lot of the legwork. Staff will do that work. It's really that each of you as chairs would carry forth to our corridor management committee the viewpoints that this committee has on anything that goes forward. So I think that would work.
This is Tim again. I like the idea. I think that all three of us bring some qualities and strengths and viewpoints that will make this this decision fabric very strong. Mike Steinhauser and his business background and his connections in the community, and his insight, I think will go a long way as we try to navigate the waters of the proper route and the politics to go along with that. Felicia has been a stalwart along the Broadway corridor and certainly has a vested interest in what goes on in the community for all concerns. And, she is currently doing a bang-up job with the West Broadway Coalition. And so I kind of like the idea. And because we're all busy and because we all have different viewpoints and different styles of delivery, I think that's a good idea.
Well, we're hearing support overall from the committee, and I'm wondering if the way forward could be to appoint all three as our co-chairs, and since we really do need that, we don't have any women representing in any of our chairs, kind of have Felicia as our lead chair, and then kind of co-chairs. Would that be amenable to the group?
That's cool. I just don't like the framing that the only reason why I'm here is because I'm a woman. Yeah. I'm just as capable as Mr. Baylor just said. I just want to make sure that that narrative gets.
Oh, Felicia, come on now. That's not why we're choosing you.
I said because we keep saying it, or at least Sophia keeps saying it. So I just wanted to put that out there that it's sounding like that, so that if other people go and talk about this, I just want to make sure that it's true. I really appreciate all the things that you said, Mr. Baylor. So those things are great messaging, I think, around this versus because Felicia is a woman and we don't have a woman, is what I'm saying. I think that is important, but I know that, and Mr. Baylor, that I do bring other things. So
Felicia, please stop calling me Mr. Baylor. My name is Tim.
Tim, yes, sir. My apologies. I'm working on it.
And culturally, it's just the
I'd like to second Felicia's comment, because I think it's important that we realize that we're able to do the work no matter what our gender is.
I definitely support that as well. But I also recognize that we're in Women's History Month. So, congratulations for being appointed as a woman during Women's History Month. And I definitely support her as being the lead chair. And, yes, she's a woman. She's also a Black woman, and she's a very capable individual. And I think and she's also a younger leader, I think newer to this space, that will bring a fresh set of eyes, perspective, can probably energize more, innovative thoughts around kind of what is needed for the future of our transportation throughout the metro. And so I'm excited to see her, as in a lead role in this way.
Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to meet Felicia. I'm looking forward to meeting her. I know Tim Baylor well. As I said earlier, I've been born and raised in the whole Northwest Quadrant. I have many businesses: Corner Home Medical, Robin Shopping Center, on several not-for-profits, Traxxas Not-for-Profit, Jack Jablonski Believe in Miracles Foundation. I truly believe in community involvement and truly believe that this corridor could be life-changing for a lot of people. So I would embrace Felicia. I would embrace Tim. I think it's a great choice. And if there's anything else that I could be available for, I'd be more than happy to help out.
Well, also, Mike, you failed to comment that you're the board chair for the North Memorial Hospital System, and I think that's noteworthy. North is a vital cog in our community, and it provides a plethora of services, health-wise and otherwise, and you lead that. So your leadership is important. So I don't want you to forget to mention that.
Thanks, Tim.
And let me add to that. This is Kevin Croston. I would also say that I work with both of these guys. They're both terrific. I don't know Felicia. I'm great with tri-chairs. That was my thought when I heard this start going down the road. North Memorial is probably the biggest employer along this line, short of Target up on 610. So it'd be good to have that input in there. I think it'll be a lot of the riders on this line will be coming to work here, I would believe.
Sophia, I think we got a winner here.
Yeah, I think we have it figured out. It's thank you for stepping up to help lead this group. And as the comments reflect, I think we have some really awesome leaders stepping into these positions. So kind of some follow-up for our three chairs is that you'll get the CMC invitation for March 11th. Kind of forwarded to you, and then I'll follow up to start our monthly meeting prior to this one to check in about agendas and whatnot. So congratulations to you three, and I think we have a lot to get through, so we might as well just clip away. So project update, Dan, to kick us off.
Thank you, Sophia, and thanks to the committee for working this out so far. It is definitely a positive sign to see the energy that this committee brings, just in the ability to work together to come up with a solution that we just did. And so that gives me a lot of great hope that we will be able to really and hopefully move this project forward. I apologize if my sound goes in and out. Sometimes WebEx gives me a little problem, and Sophia tells me to sit straight and look at the camera to make sure that I'm speaking into the microphone. So for many of you that I haven't met, my name is Dan Solar. I work with Hennepin County as the lead on this project, and we're so excited to move this forward and look at the opportunities and to tackle the challenges that a major investment transportation project like this brings. We need to be able to embrace the positives, but then we also need to be very cognitive of and really address the difficulties that a major project like this can bring as well, and make sure that we focus on both of those topics. And so I want to talk a little bit about our team and how our team comes together So we have a joint Blue Line project management team, and Sam O'Connell, who you'll meet in a little bit, and myself are the co-leads. I work for Hennepin County, Sam worked for Metro Council. And so our two agencies lead this effort. And currently our team really is made up, we've got kind of 4 arms that we have working on this. We've got a design and engineering arm, and so we'll be looking at and working on the engineering aspects of the LRT project, the impacts to the streets and where this will fit and what the impacts will be to bikes and pedestrians and vehicle traffic and how LRT fits. But also we have a community works arm, and the community works arm includes also the impacts that are beyond just the physical infrastructure impacts and benefits of what an LRT project can bring. And that is really a very critical and important part in terms of what are the positives, like the potential for increased economic development and the potential for further community development opportunities in and along the line, but also focusing on what are the potential impacts, the things like minimizing or eliminating displacement and making sure that we provide an equitable piece. And Felicia talked about that already in terms of making sure that we're building an LRT line for the community to fit within the community wherever it may be, from Brooklyn Park all the way down into Minneapolis, and that it doesn't provide more negative impacts than positives in terms of a transportation project. We have a huge piece of community engagement and communications tied to our team, and so you'll meet and hear from Joan Vanhala today a little bit about our community engagement process. We've got what we believe is a fairly robust process that actually doesn't just result in community engagement provided by us as staff from Met Council in Hennepin County, but we've gone out and contracted with numerous agencies in and along the alignment that will help guide us through how we can really build community input into what we're doing. And how we communicate and how we put communications together and out is a key piece of our team as well. And then lastly, we have a leg that involves both the environmental review and the Federal Transit Administration New Starts process. We look to have federal funding on our projects, and so that is a piece that is important for us to move forward, because we want to maximize our federal investment on a project like this as well. So what's the task in front of us for this calendar year? The next slide shows a little bit about what we hope to do in 2021, and that is to analyze potential routes to develop a community-supported route to bring an LRT line from Target Field Station north to northern Brooklyn Park without using Burlington Northern Railroad. So we've spent years attempting to advance an LRT project that left downtown Minneapolis, went on Highway 55, and then north along the Burlington Northern Railroad for 8 miles, and then north into Brooklyn Park on West Broadway. We now know that the ability to get an agreement to co-locate LRT with Burlington Northern is not unlikely, and we've kind of positioned and pivoted from that position to saying, is there a route that can serve the needs of the community that doesn't use railroad right away? So very soon we want to start to, and based on previous public engagement, start to release preliminary routes that we can analyze, have discussion on, have community engagement on, and evaluate kind of against each other to determine if we do and can find by fall a community supported route that we can move forward. That's the work that we will look to engage your committee on as well as others. So we got some conceptual engineering to do for the various route options this year. That work will be done. We won't be able, we won't be doing final designs, but we will certainly be analyzing conceptually what the impacts are of those routes, what are some of the project benefits, and what are some of the project impacts by each of the various route options that we analyze to get to that community supported alignment. If we can do that, and if we are successful in bringing that together, then what we would do is bring that to the FTA and have the FTA give us some guidance on how to do the environmental work associated with that selected alignment route, determine mitigation measures that come from that, seek municipal consent from our local municipalities in terms of moving that forward, and begin to develop construction plans. So lots of work to do beyond 2021, but certainly we've got some big lifts ahead of us in 2020. So this map, I just want to kind of touch base on with folks from along the alignment here, is this is what we've been looking at in terms of how we're going to look at the changes along this corridor. And you can see it is not kind of a one-size-fits-all piece here. And so the northern half, the northern rectangle up north of 610 and along West Broadway in Brooklyn Park, that's where you see in the lighter yellow there. We call that Area 1. And up there, that's the area where previously BNSF right-of-way was not part of the project. And so in working with Brooklyn Park and talking to North Hennepin Community College and working with our businesses and residents up there, it's likely we will stay on West Broadway for that segment of the alignment. It doesn't have to move. A lot of work has been done to put that in place, and we would likely stay there. In the long kind of diagonal rectangle that really mostly encompasses Crystal, City of Crystal and City of Robbinsdale, rather than being on the Burlington Northern right-of-way, we would look to have LRT on Highway 81, which for the most part runs parallel to the railroad. At least in Crystal, it runs parallel to the railroad for almost the entire length. In Robbinsdale, it starts to split a little bit. And so there are certainly challenges in both of those sections about how do we build street running LRT rather than building it in the railroad corridor. But we would still look to serve Crystal with a station at Bass Lake Road. We would still look to serve Crystal, Brooklyn Center, and Brooklyn Park with a station up near 63rd, where the park and ride is. But as we get further south, Robbinsdale, we have the need to maybe move from the railroad corridor to Highway 81, much more challenging in the downtown. But what are the opportunities there? And then, of course, being on Highway 81 allows us to bring in North Memorial Hospital. And as we advance the previous alignment, why there was not a stop at North Memorial Hospital was one of the biggest, factors and questions that we got in moving this forward. So that would be something that we would see as a positive. But I don't want to be too simplistic about this. There are a lot of challenges to changing from the railroad alignment to Highway 81. And so that will be a key piece of our analysis. And then in the bottom rectangle there, that includes Golden Valley and Minneapolis. Essentially, we want to develop routes that we can analyze connecting Target Field Station to really the Minneapolis border or North Memorial Hospital, routes that we can study that would lead us to what the community would support as an LRT route between those 2 points. And so when we start to roll this out, we're kind of looking at some adopted project principles that both our previous Business Advisory Committee, Community Advisory Committee, and Corridor Management Committee have adopted. And we'll make sure everyone here sees what those project principles are to help guide us. We need to look at where there's available right-of-way. We need to look at previous work and community conversations that have been done. And then again, we're going to need to do a lot of background and community feedback work on where key destinations are and how we want to link these two pieces up. So that's a little bit of a guide in where we are now. Sophia, are you going to take this piece from here? And so we'll and then we'll be available for some questions as we go forward.
So as we kind of set the table for what to expect as we roll out alignment options, there's a couple things just to kind of frame that we want folks to be aware of. So, we have very, very conceptual engineering in terms of exactly where the light rail might fit within the roadway, how all of that works. That is something that we'll have to get into greater detail throughout the year as we move forward. Those are questions that we'll answer, but we won't have them right away. In addition, as a kind of potential right-of-way impact. So what exactly are we impacting outside of maybe the immediate roadway corridor? We don't fully know that yet, and that will be something that we'll have to identify as we go through. One of our project principles is, of course, to minimize any of these impacts, so we'll be working diligently to have that in mind as we do our work. We won't have a full analysis of all the project benefits. So what exactly our ridership is, what will our runtime be, what kind of opportunities does it bring? And we have some idea from the previous alignment, but those are all things that we'll have to analyze in greater detail. And even as we look at our different options, we won't immediately, as we release options, know exactly the benefits of all of them as compared to each other. In area 1 and in some parts of area 2, we have a fairly good idea of where stations should be from previous work. As we move south in area 2 and definitely in area 3 in Minneapolis, there'll be places where the stations that would be in very, very different places. So we will have to have a process unto itself to really cite where we want our stations and kind of the toolbox of ways to place a station, because we do need a little bit more right away where we have a station. And we don't have the complete inventory of project risks. These are big, complicated projects. They come upon hurdles. They come upon things that need to be addressed. To use Nick's phrase, he can engineer his way out of anything, but there's often impacts or costs or things to work through. And so while we're super optimistic that we can find a pathway forward with this project, we can't guarantee that it's not setback free and that there won't be challenges ahead of us. And then costs. That's something that we'll have to develop as we make some higher level decisions about what the project looks like itself. So, in terms of overall magnitude and whatnot, we'll have to get back into those engineering details and kind of work that out. That'll be part of our year ahead. While it's not a full start of a conversation, because we've been in conversations with you for a long time, with the parts that are new, we're really looking to get validation about whether this is right. Did we get this right? Are we missing anything? Actually, I've already gotten some comments from members of this committee itself with ideas of how we might find solutions. So we're going to put our best foot forward in terms of the team, relying on what Dan talked about of our project principles and some preliminary analysis, and we'll be really turning to you to help us fill that in. We'll get to this kind of at the end, but we have to evaluate what we're looking at, and so kind of the criteria in which we use to do that will be part of our work, and we'll be hoping to engage further on that. And then when you see lines on a map, there's more questions than there are immediately answers that we have. But with that, what information is really needed before we can say, yes, this is our route, this is our solution, we have it. So we'll be looking to all of you to help us fill that in. What do you need to know before you can support an option to move forward? Along with what's in the rails, we know we have a lot of big work associated with what we're doing. And Joan will talk about this in just a minute, and we'll kind of clip through because we're a little bit limited on time. But we heard folks talk about housing affordability, rent, business leasing affordability, things like that. And as a project team, want to make sure that we are building a project that is for the community. So having eyes on anti-displacement strategies and tools and community wealth building be something that is part of the conversation, as well as beginning to think about how we support businesses during construction. Equity, inclusion, and diversity have to be a center of our work, and our project team, to the extent that we can remind folks to be inclusive and thinking of other groups as part of what we need to do. And I know all of you will hold us very accountable on that end. We also know that as we shift the project, there will be parts of the alignment that people have invested time and resources and desires in that might not be the way that they were before. So we'll have to do some local work to think about how we bring that stuff forward. Were we doing some roll calling that we're no longer doing? Were we making a bicycle connection that maybe doesn't tie into the project anymore? Those are conversations that we're committed to still having. And then additional issues that we haven't identified yet, and that we want to be responsive to what all you have to bring forward. So if as we're getting into the details, there'll be things that we haven't thought about yet or that we haven't identified yet that we need to bring forward. Before I kind of go on to the next thing, is there any questions about our work ahead for either Dan or I? And I also want to give an opportunity for Sam to say hello, because she wasn't able to introduce herself when we started off. Okay, I'm getting a lot of like blank stares, so I guess I'll move on. I'll get real quick. Sam, do you want to say hi to the group?
Yes, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to say a quick hello and thank you for your passion that you've brought today. My name is Sam O'Connell and I am serving as the project lead. So just wanted to put a name and a face together. I'm looking forward to getting to know some of you that I have not met in the past and those that I have met before. Hello, good to see you again. And just really wanted to underscore the importance of having this group come together and share the thoughts that you have about this very critical, important project. And we want to make sure your time is valued. And if it isn't, let us know. We want to orchestrate these meetings that really provide an opportunity for you to share your thoughts. Granted, today we're doing a lot of housekeeping items, but I'm looking forward to more robust discussion as we continue to meet. So thanks for your time this morning and happy to see everybody.
Thanks, Sam.
Sophia, I just have one question / comment. This is Kenya.
Go ahead, Kenya.
The Blue Line has often been referred to as the cultural corridor, if you will. And while I see that you do have some points here about equity, inclusion, and diversity, I don't see anything about racial equity. And I'm just wondering the intent, commitment to also helping to make sure that piece gets driven along how we're thinking. I mean, we get the, everybody's in, but we also have to be intentional about how we're driving that piece, which has not included everybody historically and currently. So I just want to make sure, because I'm going to drive that really hard in these conversations. So I just want to be upfront about that and make sure that it's part of how we're thinking now.
Kenya, this is Tim Baylor. I want to assure you that between Felicia and I, that will be top of mind and an integral part of the discussion and the concern. So I appreciate the comment, but we're on it.
I'm going to say thank you, Mr. Baylor. I'm still going to be working on Tim. Just the cultural pieces is just Mr. But thank you. Thank you.
In Kenya, the project staff, maybe the way to put it was meet your challenge, want to exceed your challenge, to make it part of all of our work, and we will amplify that, and we look forward to you holding us accountable on that front as well, and as well as the others. Okay, any other comments before we move on? Okay.
One thing I'd like to comment on is my concern is and always has been pedestrian safety. And the issue with the Bass Lake location of the station as part of the BNSF corridor was causing people to have to cross 8 lanes of traffic and 2 train tracks to get from point A to point B, which is from a large part of North Crystal to the shopping center area and to the recreation center. And now we have just improved Becker Park, building to draw families to it. So I want to make sure that there is some focus on how important getting people from point A to point B for the station is. I like the idea of going up Count 81. I really am in favor of that, and I love the idea that we're including North Memorial Hospital. But I am very concerned because we were looking at hopefully some kind of a pedestrian bridge or something to protect the people that would have to cross that area. And it just kind of died on the vine. So it is something that will be a focus going forward.
Thank you for that. You know, as we think of our solutions, we'll really have to get into those details of what it looks like for a pedestrian or somebody arriving by bike, and all those things as folks arrive at stations. You know, I'm a big supporter of what you call a transit-oriented lifestyle, and having those safe walking connections is a critical piece of offering that. So we might start a little bit up here in terms of some of that, but we will definitely get into those details as we move forward with our work. Okay. Since for time, we'll just kind of keep clipping along, and the next piece we'll bring back at our next meeting for more discussion, but just kind of want to drop it here for initial reactions. Is that as we've kind of moved this project forward, we're still retaining pieces of the initial blue line analysis. And in our environmental documents, we have project goals and objectives and criteria that go through and kind of weigh the options and discuss the kind of the value of the project. So what we've done so far with the help of our environmental experts is we've taken the overall project goals and updated them slightly based on some of the feedback that we've already received. So just kind of putting it in more modern language. And then to Kenya's point in particular already is the 2 bottom bullets, the advance local and regional equity and work towards reducing regional racial disparities, and the promote health in communities was initially almost the same bullet. And hearing initially from folks, we split those 2 apart so that we could really emphasize the reducing disparities, especially regional racial disparities piece. And so this is kind of our first take at how we would evaluate the various pieces. So improving access to regional jobs and destinations, one of the things we hear the most from folks in terms of why they ride with us. Improving our transit service overall, and that train is coming about every 10 minutes, and maximizing the transit benefit while still being cost competitive and making an economically viable project. What we mean by that is that we still compete nationally for our federal funding. So we want to make sure our rating stays good, and we want to make sure that we're designing a project that actually can be built. But with that framework in mind, we want to bring everything to this project that we possibly can to fully maximize the benefit of the investment. We want to support the community's development goals. Many of you in your introductions talked about development and things that you want to see to make your community prosper. And so taking that as a piece of it. And then I kind of talked about the last bullet. So if there's any initial thoughts, let folks weigh in. Otherwise, we'll make sure that this piece alone is part of our discussion at our next meeting. Okay.
Is there any sort of time frame for federal funding at all, or is that something that's not been decided?
So we still would need to officially apply for our federal funding, but we're working very closely with the FTA. I see Dan unmuting, so you want to add to that?
Well, and thanks. That's a good question. The project, as we knew it and as we know it today, is in the queue, if you will, for the federal program. Eventually, when a project advances to a specific time frame, it's allowed to apply for a full funding grant agreement, which is what allows us then to access those federal funds. Those days are after the alignment is decided, the design is done, the risks are identified, a final cost is determined. We just recently here, 6-7 months ago, got the full funding grant agreement for the Southwest LRT project. And that's been ongoing for a while. So that day will come. We're in the queue. We're working down the quality or qualifications and requirements. So, and based on previous actions, we hope for federal funding to be available when we get to that point in doing that in the next number of years.
One point, Sophia and Dan, is I've seen these rail systems come through and have worked negatively toward the environment. I would hope that we would be enhancing quality of lives here and also enhancing the businesses along the way. I've seen things been tossed aside that were critical pieces of old infrastructure that hopefully we can hang on to, but ultimately the entire line needs to raise the level of quality in people's lives and not take it the other way. And keeping in mind that businesses are critical for the tax bases of all these cities.
I think that, Mike, that's true. And so part of what we will do is the attempt here is that the construction of the LRT line is both to provide future opportunities, but to also serve the people, the businesses, the community organizations, schools, other things that are there today as well. And so both of those things need to be taken into account. There will be impacts. There will be impacts during construction, no question about it. There will be impacts as a result of it, but minimizing those impacts, keeping things that are there and viable and want to continue to be there, and then also providing future opportunities, balancing those three things out are really what become critical. So I agree completely. And that part of how we decide where to build this, how to build this, when to build it, all is based on maximizing those opportunities.
Thank you, Dan.
If I can add just one really quick comment. I really like these goals. I think it's when we're talking about improving transit access, I really liked your mention, Sophia, of transit-oriented lifestyles. And I think that should be the goal when we're making big investments in transit. Like this very well could be the biggest investment in our state's history. And so I think it's really important that just like the BRT lines that are going in and that focus on transit-oriented lifestyles, that this project supports that as well.
Thank you, Alex. I agree, obviously. Does anybody else have any other comments? Okay,
Yes,
for the
my only,
oh, go ahead, please.
The only comment is it's not listed here as a goal necessarily, but just to make sure that as we go along in this process that we're also emphasizing how this tool still does support like existing transit dependent communities, right? And that it doesn't become this new tool for everything new, right? That typically happens in the conversation. We think about improving access, you know, amongst all of our communities, which I think we all want, right? However, not at the expense of those who actually depend on it and need it. So we can't lose focus of that, you know, as we move along. So just keeping that in mind.
Thank you. I would say both for Kenya's comment and for Alex's comment, in terms of the improved frequency and reliability, the kind of objective that we have tentatively written below that is exactly what you just said, is part of that goal. And so if we need to spell that out a little bit more in our goals, we can definitely do that. But I think those are both incredibly critical pieces to have to the discussion. Okay, I'm going to move us along a little bit. Just, Felicia, did you have another?
Yeah, like I think that, well, I was just kind of wondering, did anyone specifically say like anti-gentrification or anti-displacement as like a criteria or goal? Because I'd like to add that, if not.
We could, I'll just say yes, we have not specifically kind of put that out, you know, in terms of an objective under the support community development goals. Just how you measure beneficial development would be something that we could put. Adding that specifically to this goal could be something that we could spell out as well.
Yeah, because I can't speak to all the communities that are affected here and if they've established something like that. So I think at this level, it's actually really powerful to say at this level, like this is one of our goals.
Okay. Turning to Liz, please specifically mention that adjustment in the notes.
Will do. Yep.
And we'll come back with these because I think people will have thoughts. And I think this, based on this group's comment, we'll probably want to talk about the kind of the level underneath these, the objectives. We just gotta work on those just a tiny bit more. We're pulling through what we did in the previous environmental process, and while it still holds, some of it sounds very 2013, 2010, and so kind of massaging that while keeping the project still in queue a little bit. Okay, we don't have much time left, and I know many of you have other probably commitments right at 9:30. So knowing that this is an important topic, we'll definitely come back to it. And Joan and I are just going to like clip through the engagement section like super fast. So we have a few minutes at the end to talk about our next step for our meeting, because we do want to touch base on that quickly. So I will talk fast. Joan will talk fast. It's not because engagement isn't important, but just we've had a lot to kind of push your way today. So just really quickly, we have commitments as an engagement team to our community, and one of the main ones is that we will be community centric through the whole process, and that is having folks involved with all the decisions that we are making, all the proposals that we have, that we're transparent about what we're doing, and that we move at the speed of trust. So if you all are saying we don't understand what you're doing, we don't trust what you're doing, we're not ready to move forward, right? We need more time to work on it. We want to come to where people are. Joan is going to go more into how we do that a little bit with our community consultants. And we are very willing to adjust our methods based on what we hear from our communities. I don't know everything. Dan doesn't know everything. Sam doesn't know everything. Joan doesn't know everything. And we come with that approach, right? Like we have our proposals and our ideas and our ways to move the project forward, but we are very willing to adjust. One of our kind of commitments is that we have dedicated staff that are available to work with corridor residents and businesses. So I will go everywhere with you. I will be wherever you need me to be. I will bring whatever resources we need to further the discussion. And that goes the same for Joan. Joan's going to talk about the community consultants. We're going to have some overlap with our committees of those that are part of our cohort with that. And so we can talk about that more. We'll be, make sure everybody knows when we're about to release technical information or where we have decision points. So everybody knows in advance that you might want to have some time to kind of comment on things. And we will track our engagement so we don't ask the same thing over and over again. Like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Right? It's like, for example, with a station, we asked a bunch about destinations that people want to serve. So we're bringing that forward. When we start to have that station discussion, that is an input we already have collected. And all of you, having these committees embedded in our work and seeing everything that we're doing is a big piece of it. Joan.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into these 2 slides too deeply because I'm in the middle of preparing a report that I can report out to you guys at another meeting. Basically, I want to say that we began to set the table for 2021 conversations, which we're just now beginning today. So this is just the beginning of a year-long robust conversations. And I'm just going to have Sophia flip through these 2 slides. You'll learn more about this from the report from phase 1, where we refreshed our stakeholder list. We did stakeholder interviews. We did listening sessions. We expedited 3 short-term contracts with community-based experts. So moving forward in 2021, that'll all be part of the report we had. Well, if you want me to take a minute on this one, Sophia, we had a survey in the corridor. We had 1,900 people fill out the survey. And one of the questions that we asked was, what are your key destinations in the different areas, as Dan described? We also asked, what do you see are the priority opportunities for this new direction? What do you see are the key issues for this new direction? And we also asked for community engagement recommendations moving forward. So we have a whole body of work to build off of for our work in 2021. In 2021, in January, we released an RFP. We got 12 proposers that replied. We had our evaluation committee review all those proposals, and we're looking actually to expedite those contracts. They're going to be contracts, not grants. And I call them our community-based experts. They're going to be working as a cohort called the Community Engagement Cohort. I've sent out communications to all those groups that we've selected yesterday, but until our county board and our county administrator approve the contracts, they're not totally official. So I can't publicly tell you for now, the names of the folks that we're contracting with, but I do want you to know we have a really robust team that we're assembling that are going to be coordinated and collaborative with the Blue Line LRT communication and engagement staff. And we all work within the direction of the Blue Line project management team. So I think just for the sake of respecting everybody's time, I will end it there. As Sophia said, there are some overlaps from the groups that were selected and the BAC and the Community Advisory Committee. So I think it's important as we move forward to figure out some way to keep everybody connected in the engagement efforts. So with that, I will end my presentation, and I am certainly happy to talk to anybody more in depth about how the whole process went.
Thank you, Joan. And we will save time at our future meetings to really talk about how this group wants to kind of be a part of all overall engagement efforts as well, so that we get to this before 9:30. The project team is getting ready to release our proposed route solutions before your next meeting, and given that it's gonna be soon, we didn't want necessarily to have all of you have to wait until April to get back together and discuss what we have to show. So we're proposing that we have a special meeting just this month. This is not something that we would do on the regular, but since this is more substantial information and this kind of onboarding takes so much time, that we get together with our CAC on Monday, March 22nd at 6 p.m. It's the normal CAC meeting time, and that the meeting would be just focused on the initial route solutions conversation. And then we would get back together at our normal morning time in April to kind of move things forward. But it just kind of felt that since it's everybody's kind of probably could be interested in what we have to say, getting together and being able to dive into questions and having that conversation would be important. So not heads, thumbs, yes, no. If this sounds like a good thing to do. I'd also note that we try to have you meet your CAC counterparts. Usually with this meeting would be together, but it's just too hard virtually to get so many folks together when we have so much people. But we'd want to do that.
Sophia, how long should we plan for that meeting?
But probably about a 2-hour commitment. We would try to cut it off by 8 o'clock. We try to do that with our CACs. We don't drag on half the night. Thumbs up.
Sophia, there is a question from Ian Alexander. Is this conversation about route discussion or discussion of process?
Maybe it'll be about the routes themselves, and we'll get a little bit more into the process to going forward.
Will we receive that via email, or how will we see that route?
Yeah, so we're planning a press release in mid-March to kind of do all the routes. I'll send a special communication to this committee, just so you probably see it, but just to make sure that you do and have the information you need, and then that'll give you some time to digest what we have before we get back together.
I have a question about that. The route, you're going to put a press release out, but does this seem, and I'm not trying to stymie or make the process take longer, but do you think you're going to get overshadowed by, I don't know, the massive trial going on downtown and potentially things that will happen because of that? Or, I mean, I'm not trying to be a downer here, but that does seem to be a concern that is brought up every time I chat with anyone at City Hall.
Yeah, Ian, we fully recognize that we're not necessarily the most important issue in the world right now, and that's part of how there'll be multiple points in the trial will focus a lot of folks' attention, and capacity-wise, we recognize that there's a lot of work to do on that front as well. So try to get the information out there early, and then we're going to have a long conversation about it, kind of through the end of April. We'll kind of be in the same world, and we'll have the whole year overall to talk about the routes, but just for our folks that we know, we're at the point too that it doesn't feel like we can continue the conversation until we have things to show. And there's kind of this, people keep asking us, like, what are the routes? So we feel like it's time to at least have that on the table, and then we'll have a lot of time to talk about it. But yeah,
And Sophia, as I'm understanding it, will it just be a press release, like you post something on your website, send out a couple emails, like in the newsletter type thing, or are there other? What I wonder is, are there ways to kind of penetrate the oversaturation of the trial in media? Are there other ways we can make these announcements to still get people's attention, is my question. I don't have the answer today at this moment, but I
can speak a little bit to what we're planning with communications, if that's helpful.
Go ahead, Kyle.
So certainly it is the top consideration of ours that there is a massive trial going on, and there will potentially be major things happening in our communities that we'll be competing with kind of for airtime and attention. So we do want to make it as easy as possible for people to hear about and engage with it, being conscious of the fact that there could potentially be some very real things happening. So for the rollout, yes, we're planning a press release. We're going to be doing some targeted media outreach around it. We're also working on securing some advertising contracts with some cultural and geo-specific media organizations such as KMOJ, North News, Radio El Rey. I think we've got about 5 that we're pursuing contracts with. And then we're also going to be creating a communications toolkit that will share out with community partners, the engagement partners, everyone on this committee. And that will kind of have sort of draft content for social media, websites, newsletters. It'll have images, kind of all of the main information, just to make it as easy as possible for our community partners and engagement partners to help amplify the messages that we're hoping to get out there to make it easy for people to hear about and to get engaged with the project.
Yeah,
So a few of the things we're planning, and we're always open to suggestions. If the committee has other ideas or ways to get the word out.
So with that, you know, it's a start of information, and the 2, I think, main takeaways from what Kyle said is we will pursue multiple paths to do exactly what Felicia asked us to do, and we'll be clear that there's ways not only to receive the information but to start giving us a feedback on what we have. Okay, we are over time. I'm happy to kind of, and I'm sure Dan will, to stay a minute if folks have other questions. Otherwise, we have some immediate takeaways, which is scheduling our next meeting on the 22nd, getting the co-chairs or tri-chairs or whatever, somebody had a name for the 3 chairs to start a regular kind of cadence of CMCs and check-ins. And with that, we're just getting to know you all. By the end of this year, I hope you'll be sick of our faces and know us quite well. So thank you for putting up with us as we start this out. And we're just really excited to work with all of you. The discussion today, even though it was a lot of us firing at stuff, was really great to begin with. And we just really appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.